from pureflix.com, and we're here today in Aurora, Colorado at the Moore family's home. Now, the Moores think that we're here to talk about their adoption, and we are, but we're also here due to the generous subscribers of pureflix.com, just like you, to surprise them by paying off the remaining portion of their adoption, and they have no idea.
We met in college, our freshman year at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. And we had seen each other a couple of times around campus, but we actually got set up by Christine's roommate on a double date to go to a dance at Baylor. And that was in April of 1992, and we've been dating ever since.
I love that. So why adoption for you guys?
The story of adoption began because God called us to it. I had a vision, and it was really, really powerful. So I was floating in the ocean at night, but it was very calm and peaceful. And I was being carried by something in the water, like a current, pushing me towards something. And pretty soon I walked up, it got shallow, and I walked up onto this beach of a deserted tropical island. And as I walked up onto the sand, the most interesting thing was laying around. There were all of these jewels or gemstones that were lying around in the sand. And every one of them was glowing with this internal fire. So I just looked around the scene, there are all these points of light, you know, these beautiful gemstones lying around on this beach in the night. And I just felt compelled to reach down and pick one up. And so I reached down into the sand to pick the first one up, and the vision ended. And the Lord spoke something to my spirit that was so powerful and so profound, I still remember it. He said, "My son, are you willing to be carried by my spirit to a land far away to pick up the jewels that no one else even knows about?" And in that moment, he kind of pulled back the curtain of heaven, and he just showed me that glimpse of what was to come in our life. He was calling us to go to another place, another country, another culture, to go there and to adopt these children and bring them into our home. We had never really thought much about adoption before that. We had had an early discussion in our marriage about adoption. We'd had some miscarriages. Christine had 2 miscarriages. And after that, we had talked about adoption. Christine had asked me. And at the time, I had said, I don't think I could adopt. I don't think I could love a child that wasn't my own biologically. And so God had some work to do in my heart to make some big changes in me so that I was ready for the call that he was going to call us to.
We knew it was going to be a big number.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was like 4 or 5 was kind of what, you know, we were looking at.
So you had to really prepare yourselves for that, obviously, the house and so many other things, I would imagine. And a piece of that I would imagine also is, you know, the fundraising and making sure that the pieces of the process you're able to go through. So
that's a really interesting part of the journey. So I was a petroleum geologist for 20 years, leading up until 2015, when our whole team got laid off on one day. And so we were in the midst of this process, and I lose this great job. And that, of course, led to, wow, well, what does that mean for the adoption? I mean, can we still be approved for adoption? Can we move forward? And that was on the legal side. And then just practically speaking, what does that look like for moving forward? And so as we began to pray about that, we looked for partners and how we could partner. You know, we wanted to partner with a group, an organization that was really focused on adoption. And that's where AdoptTogether came into the story. And I realized that they had such a huge heart for adoption, obviously, which is really personal. You know, AdoptTogether is reviewing our case, they're approving our case, they're making sure that we are actually adopting. And so that was really beautiful to find this organization that would allow us to accept donations from other people. And certainly people that may have wanted to receive a tax deduction for that donation were able to do that as well.
It's very important to have the support from not only people who have adopted, but even just friend support, family support is really key to encouraging you, keeping you going, and share hope together that yes, God has called you to do this. Our kids have been phenomenal. Some of our struggle is going from 1 child to 5 has been huge. So, you know, I always tell people our kids are great. It's me who's struggling, you know, and it's not the kids. The kids are phenomenal, phenomenal. I mean, if anyone says, you know, what's the greatest joy? It is seeing the kids love Jesus.
And there were only 4 children from Peru adopted in the United States in 2017.
That's exactly right.
And they live in your home. Those are the 4 kids.
Yes.
You've written a book. What was the motivation behind the book? What are you hoping people take away from that?
So the motivation of the book was twofold. I never intended to write a book. That was not part of the idea of the journey. I never really thought about that. But when I came back from Peru, I was talking to a good friend of mine who's actually our neighbor across the street, and was just sharing some of these things we had learned in the process. And he said, Jeffrey, people need to know this. People need to hear this and be encouraged as well. And so I wrote the book, and the primary reason is to encourage people in their own journey of life. I believe that everyone has promises from God that have not been fulfilled yet. There's those dreams that God has given you that you know what they are, you've heard them, you've thought about them, but you haven't seen the fullness of those dreams in your life yet. They're still out in the future. And I wrote the book using our story as a base, and really explaining how we learn to hear God better, how we learn to partner with Him, to have that faith that you ask about, and to combine patience, and patient waiting at the appropriate times. And what does that mean to wait patiently, but continue to trust God when it takes time. Whether they're adopting or not, whatever their journey is, whatever their story is, that they can get closer to the fulfillment of those promises in their life.
It's an incredible story. It really is. And so, I wanted to tell you guys that pureflix.com and our generous and our amazing subscribers and fans, we want to actually fully fund the remaining costs of your adoption.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. We're so happy to do it. Your story is so incredible.
Thank you. That is a huge blessing.
Thanks to your generosity, the More Families adoption is complete and paid for. But your generosity doesn't have to stop there. You can go over to AdoptTogether.org right now to help another family just like the Moores. And be sure to go to pureflix.com and facebook.com/pureflix for daily uplifting content.